And I'm very glad to be here. I really enjoyed to be here. I briefly toured around this area and I really enjoyed it. This morning I was asked to present my talk as a keynote, but I prepared only for 10 minutes presentation, as you know. This title that I prepared for the presentation is only a small part of a big project, which I have been carrying out in Korea. So maybe the best way, since I have additional time to present my work, maybe I will talk about the project to show you a bigger picture. But unfortunately, I was trying to download the big file from Korea, but I failed because of a little bit because of some internet problem. But I fortunately have one file here that's related to that project, but it's written in Korean. But I will show you the essence of the project so that you can understand the bigger picture of what I'm doing. Then I will go to the details of the recognition part. So probably I will spend 10 minutes to introduce the project and another 20 minutes for the details on the computer vision-based recognition. Yeah. So momentarily I will So I will momentarily, go to the slide. They show the project. Okay, so I will just make this. So the project is called Cognitive Consumer Robotics. The reason why the project is called this way is that we are developing a robot, service robot for elderly, but that has to be deployable in a real consumer market. So it's a consumer robot, but it is intelligent. So we call it cognitive consumer robot. So this work was, okay, I will skip this thing. The motivation of this work is that because of the Korean society moving rapidly into elderly society, actually you see some other nations do have a similar trend that is moving into more senior elderly society. Now, this creates a number of problems, very big problems in terms of cost of medical insurance, but actually to promote their happiness and productivity is also one of the big issues in the future for the society. And we thought that service robot can play part of the role to help these senior citizens. So there are several ways to help elderly, but depending on where they are. So in Korea, there are 3 types of facilities. One is convenience facilities, where elderly just visit the convenience facility daily to, make a network with other people, or to do something there, like to play games with other people or that kind of thing. So there is many convenient facilities in there. The other one is assisted living facilities. Elderly is able to do daily activities, but not so in a comfortable manner. So they need some assistance. And the other one is elderly living alone. So they live alone, so they have a mental issue. The loneliness or that kind of thing. There are 3 types of facilities where elderly are supported. But then depending on their where they are, they have different types of services required. So for instance, in convenience facility, if we can make robot that can help elderly for playing games, then I think it would be good. And assisted living facility, for instance, errand service. It is not only for elderly, but also for elderly care staff members. Because staff members are overburdened to assist the elderly for every small matters, like bringing the water, or bring some snacks or whatever. Then these simple things can be done by robot, for instance. And in elderly living alone case, actually, to reduce the loneliness may be one of the necessity. For instance, the robot can help in this matter by providing video chatting capability. So robot can initiate video chatting with the families in a remote place, for instance. So I just listed some of the services that robot can do for service to elderly. But you see that to achieve this kind of services by robot is not easy. This requires robot a lot of intelligence, right? For instance, if you think about errand service, is it easy for machine or robot can do it automatically? Not only automatically, but also dependably. This is really hard. For human, it is not very hard, but for robot, it is very hard. In spite of the advancement of computer vision, especially in recognition, dependability in recognition is harder to achieve yet. But this is the issue that actually I'm going to present today. So maybe I will skip. So there are several institutions got involved in this project together with us. So we are the principal investigator, but then we have 2 companies in Korea participating in. Also, one US university, Georgia Tech, in the first phase, and the second phase, Pennsylvania State University participating in this project. The role of US is mostly the user study. So once this robot is developed, then this robot will be tested in US whether this robot meets their service requirement. So this user study has been carried out in the United States. We consider 5 service scenarios. Actually, one is errand service. So if elderly or staff member request the robot to bring a particular object like water, juice, snack, or whatever, then the robot can automatically bring it in an unstructured environment, not structured environment. The robot initially does not know where the snack is, where the eyeglasses are, or whatever, yeah? So, but then robot must search for it and find it and bring it to the elderly. This is not easy, so well, we are going to make it work, yeah. The other one is this errand service, and the other one is playing game with the elderly, and then video chatting, medicine alarm, and then music and TV service. So if elderly wants to hear some music, then this can play music for elderly. And also it can do even karaoke. So elderly can sing with the robot if they want. So these 5 services are provided here. So these are the hardware we have developed. I mean, you can see these hardwares. I will just quickly go through this one. So this is actually how this robot works. I mean, I will show you in later how it does. So one of the key issues is the dependable computer vision-based recognition. So errand service is one thing that the robot must deliver, but then robot must be able to find the object that is requested by elderly, wherever the object is located. So this dependable recognition is a really important issue here. So I'm going to focus on that issue later. Yeah. So this is some sort of taking juice and then deliver to the elderly. Maybe you can see that. So if you have time to visit Korea, then just let me know. I will just show this demonstration in my lab to you anytime when you visit. Yeah, because it works anytime. Yeah, yeah. So this one I will show you later. So in this case, actually, robots not only recognize an object, but also it automatically search for an object. So it uses some context to identify where the object is probably located and go there and search. But then probabilistically, it just assigns probabilities and then update these probabilities every time, and then finally find the object. So this is the way it does. So this is the searching process. And then once it is searched, then pick up it, and then whatever juice, orange juice, grape juice, or whatever, then it just take it, and then based on gesture recognition, it identifies the person who requested the service, and then go there. Yeah. So what I can say is that this level of performance is now available, and sooner or later it will be on the market. So we are thinking of 3 to 5 years terms to put into the market at this time. The other thing is human-robot interaction is very important. So smartphone is used to interact with the robot. So elderly can use a smartphone to request to call, to come to the elderly, and then request any services, the 5 services I described. So if he needs water, then he can push water. If he needs juice, push juice, or that kind of thing. Then the other thing is also there are voice-based recognition, interaction. But I know that the speech recognition has been advanced so much, but without using microphone, just direct conversation with the robot is very hard. Because if there is a noise around, then it's not easy to make a robot understand what the person say. So actually, the better way is to use smartphone and just use it as microphone. Google provided these services, so you can do it. Then you can do some voice-based recognition. But actually, I did not say much about this one. But in terms of software, we kind of formulate cognitive scheme, meaning that even in the voice conversation, although you just make your grammar wrong or your words not say clearly, but then this cognitive recognition of spoken words or languages can automatically understand it based on the context. This scheme is already put it in this the system. But I'm not going to talk about speech recognition. I'm going to talk about object recognition. So, as I said, gesture recognition is also embedded here. So, if you just call the robot, then the robot identifies this gesture and then just come to you for service. Actually, you know that Microsoft has very nice this skeleton-based gesture recognition, but I think it has also some drawbacks. For instance, sometimes it's not human to say. There is a basketball, and there is some just like shoulder, like panel or whatever, then recognized as human, right? The other thing is it uses tracking, right? So you suddenly disappear and something else appear. It's not human, but it's just like it's like human or whatever. There are several drawbacks that may not be usable for this service robot. So we actually improved it by combining a skeleton-based recognition plus some human recognition and tracking. So this works much better than just skeleton-based. So I'm not going to talk about this interaction issue today because my major talk is recognition. So we have done a lot of, this is also, avatar is also made to interact with the elderly. One interesting thing I'd like to introduce is that we did some survey with the elderly because we made this avatar here, and this figure is not just made arbitrarily. This is based on survey with the elderly. So we showed the age, young girl, middle-aged woman, and elderly woman to find out what kind of face the elderly like most. What do you think? The elderly is like a younger girl, the face of a younger girl, or older girl? Yes, you're right. So it was interesting. They like a middle-aged woman. I don't know why, but this psychological, evaluation indicates that they like stability and intelligence together with this face. So this is what we found here. But this is only part of small thing in terms of user study. This is gesture-based color recognition, so I'll just keep it. So this is user study. So we did user study both in Korea and in the United States. But there are some difference in terms of their preference due to cultural differences. So the reason why we do this one is because we are going to put this in the market, not only in Korean market, but also in US market. So we did this study. So I have no time to talk about all the details of these studies, but anyway. So this is a brief introduction of project, and I will go back to the original presentation material. That's recognition. Okay. So, as I said, one of the key technologies for such a service robot to be successful is how to develop the dependable recognition based on computer vision. Dependable, by dependable, I mean that whatever environmental variation, whether illumination changes, the position of the camera, perspective, or whatever, occlusion, but the robot vision, or this vision must be successful in finding and identifying the object. Not only recognizing object, but also identifying the exact pose of object, right? Otherwise, the robot cannot grasp. So that's why we call this 3D vision or 3D recognition. So we need not only the ID of the object, but also pose of the object. So that's what. So I will briefly describe the problem and the approach, and then how this problem, I will just briefly describe the problem, and I will just show you our approach. And then I will just explain the steps one by one. So as I said, reliable or dependable recognition system. Actually, human vision is very dependable. One reason may be that we are able to combine different types of evidences or features, like photometric and geometric features together. Actually, not only that, we also can combine with our knowledge, so we can understand the context. The context can also provide probability in terms of object identification. One thing I want to mention is that I think it's more than that. That is, human dependability comes not because human vision or eyes are really perfect, but there is something else. The example is that if I call somebody in the back, but then the person does not know whether I'm calling him or not, but what he can do. Maybe that, my calling, somebody's calling me may stimulate my mind, but then we proactively search for any other evidences whether somebody's calling me. This is some sort of proactive behavior that we do in terms of completing our recognition. So maybe he starts searching for whether I'm seeing him, I'm doing any gesture or that kind of thing, yeah? And combine all these evidences to conclude that, oh, I'm calling him or not. In the end, if he is not sure whether I'm calling him or not, what he will do? He will just raise his hand. Are you calling me like that? That concludes this recognition, right? So I call this one human has a will to do it. So this is this will when stimulation comes, then mobilize our resources to solve this problem or missions generated by the stimulation. So this process, this is actually big picture that the project is doing. But this recognition is only part of it under this big frame we call cognitive recognition frame. Cognitive recognition framework. W means will. So anyway, so here actually one thing is clear. We need to use multiple evidences from photometric and geometry, as a human does. But the main problem is how to deal with the environmental variations, such as the relative pose between camera and object. It can be arbitrary, right, for a robot. In most computer vision, you consider that, the camera is here, object is there, and then you just recognize it. But in robots, it's not like that. It can be far away. Orientation, perspectives are varying all the time. And then also illumination changes all the time, plus occlusion. So objects may not be seen. So how we can deal with this one? The approach we are taking is that we combine multiple evidences that we call end-or-tree Bayesian network. I will just tell you briefly what that is. And then adapt to environmental variation. The Bayesian network that is changing based on environmental variation. So that's what we are doing here. So what kind of evidence we are using? We use as photometric feature. We use some sort of extreme point-based descriptor like shift, but you can use any other descriptors like circle or wall or whatever. So whatever available you can use it. But we use 3D shift and also color descriptor. And then for the geometry, we use 3D geometric descriptor. So you know the shift, so I don't like to. This is well-known, very famous feature. Supposed to be invariant scale, also rotation. But I think it's, even though it is robust in terms of scale variation, because the way it is made is in that way, but it's not cure-all. It is depending on orientation, distance, also illumination. The number of shift features you can detect is changing. So in certain, if we just go over the bound, then you cannot detect shift at all. So this is also issue. And the other thing is you can also, have a lot of outliers. When especially illumination is poor. So this is the kind of issue that we can talk about. The next one is color descriptor. This is very also an area very difficult to handle. As if you work with color, then color is really difficult one to use as invariant feature. You know that illumination changes, illumination spectrum changes, intensity changes. The color appears different, right? So you just know it. Same cylindrical object, but maybe top is closed or open. Like cup, this is opened, right? And other object like this is the Sprite, bottle, and it is closed, something like that, yeah? So we have this kind of shape descriptor. These multiple evidences from photometry and geometric features will be now combined in terms of multiple evidence Bayesian network framework. So you know that when we fuse these multiple evidences, there are maybe two things we need to think about. One is statistical based, the other one is knowledge based. Statistical based, as you know that in pattern recognition field, you can have feature space, maybe n-dimensional space. Now you do many experimentation and collect data for M object. Then you have clusters of all these, the points representing individual objects in this n feature space, right? And then you can just classify. Well, one thing, but then it may work, right? But the thing is, appearance vector is doing the same thing. They will do all this kind of thing. But one thing is this: if environmental parameter changes, then your distribution, the distribution in this feature space spread, then overlap will be inevitable. A lot of overlap as environmental parameters vary. So this is a kind of issue. So one way is you measure the environmental parameter and then make this distribution more crisp so that each object has distinct clusters, maybe little overlap, right? But then the question is how you can maintain this, the change, how you can predict or estimate the change of cluster as parameter changes, environmental parameter changes, right? So this is a trade-off. And the other way to see this, evidence fusion may be knowledge-based. In terms of knowledge of an object, we know this object has a particular distinct feature, right? Let's say height of an object. The manufacturer come up with the height of object with some manufacturing tolerance. But if we use a sensor to measure this height, depending on the environment, where the sensor is located, maybe it come up with a wider variation, maybe sometimes bias. So, which one is the truth? The manufacturing spec or sensor measurement? So maybe this is a kind of also issue. So when you recognize this object, you will use bottom-up sensor-based statistics or manufacturer spec. So this is, one thing, I can, one small example. But anyway, there are, the human, there is human knowledge that guide what would be the distinct evidences or features associated with objects. So these two can be combined. The best way to combine is actually Bayesian network. I think you know the Bayesian net, which is structure of these evidences. But there is something we need to talk about this Bayesian network. We consider end-to-end structure of this Bayesian network. The reason why we have end-to-end structure, sometimes you don't have, there are two pitfalls you need to avoid. One is, if your evidence is not sufficient. It's kind of sufficient condition to recognize the object. Then you end up with misdecision, I mean, some wrong decision. But the system tells you, oh, this is that object. I mean, but actually it's not. There are such cases. Let's say that two milk boxes. Can somebody tell me how much time I have? Because 1 minute. Okay. So I will move very quickly. So if somebody, we have two milk boxes with the same pattern, but different color. But color is not used in the evidence. Then you end up with the wrong decision, right? But this is very simple case, but you don't know when you deal with 20 objects, 30 objects, what is the sufficient condition to use for recognizing a particular object. So this AND was structure represented in that way that AND represent sufficient condition, or means these two sufficient condition was feasible. So this is the way we do here. So in terms of environmental adaptation, Bayesian table is supposed to be, many cases, heuristically assigned, right? But we make this Bayesian table based on statistical data. And then we can update this based on our measurement of the environmental parameters. I mean, if you are interested in how this can be done, I can tell you the details later, yeah? So there is how the adaptation can be done. The other thing is how we can handle this occlusion. Actually, we use Voxel, or I don't know whether you know Voxel or Octree, 3D Octree cell-based representation object. Not only to segment object, but also to identify the occlusion relationship. So object can be occluded. This occlusion relationship will affect the probability computation. So we consider this one for probability computation. Yeah. So the experimental result, all these algorithms, I mean, seemingly very complicated, but it can be done within 400 milliseconds. So 10 objects, for instance, can be identified its ID and pose simultaneously in 400 milliseconds. This is what we are doing. The reason why we need to keep this time is that we need to have fast recognition so that robot can make better service for elderly. And the result is false positive rate is 0%, but true negative rate is 8% at this time. The false positive means that this is not the target object, but robot says, this is the target object. This is some sort of wrong recognition, right? This is 0%, so 100%. Yeah, and then true negative means that this is not the object, but then this may be the target object. This is the 8% here. So here is some what's happening in real. So if you see the right side is the case where shape descriptor is used to identify 10 objects simultaneously. It costs only about 200 milliseconds to identify all the these 10 objects. What's interesting is that because the time is so quick, so this tracking is now not based on these point features or whatever. You can just recognize and track it in real time. Yeah. So you just the left part is the integrated system where photometric and geometry features are all integrated. About 400 milliseconds, we can have recognition of whatever you like, but recognition rate is so high, so it can be deployable in the market sooner or later. Yeah. I'm almost done. Now, this application is service robot, as I mentioned about this. So while you are watching this demo, I will stop my talk here, and then I will, yeah. Thank you very much.